A declassified CIA document references Operation Enduring Freedom Protocols. This document outlines procedures for establishing and managing secret detention centers after September 11. These protocols show that the detention and interrogation methods were directly inspired by historically documented torture. Yet, a critical detail is missing from the official reports. The link between these practices and the psychological experiments of MKULTRA is absent. Why is this detail missing from the official records? Declassified documents and testimonies indicate that the detention and interrogation protocols in the post-9/11 black sites directly adopted historically documented torture methods. This proves a continuity of illegal practices. Testimony from former CIA agents reveals that torture protocols were officially recognized and maintained through internal directives dating back to the 1990s. Architectural plans and surveillance reports for these sites were classified under the designation Operation Nightfall. Investigation reports and leaks suggest that internal control mechanisms were bypassed or ignored for these secret sites. Abuses continued under a facade of military legality. The methods of detention and interrogation used in these centers were standardized and supervised by CIA special units. But who knew exactly what transpired within these installations? The available archives suggest that the post-9/11 black sites are not isolated incidents. They are orchestrated and documented policies by government authorities. The detention and interrogation protocols used in these installations were directly inspired by historically documented torture methods. Architectural plans and surveillance reports show that the physical infrastructure of the black sites was designed to allow the perpetuation of abuse under a facade of military legality. Investigation reports and leaks indicate that internal control mechanisms were bypassed or ignored for these secret sites. These actions allowed abuses to persist. The methods used in these centers were standardized and supervised by CIA special units. If the evidence exists, who is responsible for the hidden truth? Recent archives confirm that torture is not an exception. It is a structural component of U.S. national security operations. The protocols used in the post-9/11 black sites were directly inspired by historical torture methods. What does this imply for national security and justice? Until now, one could believe that the post-9/11 black sites were exceptional measures against terrorism. But a single line in the Operation Enduring Freedom Protocols document raises a problem. The detention and interrogation protocols used in these facilities were directly inspired by historically documented torture methods. These means of abuse are not isolated incidents. They are policies orchestrated and documented by government authorities. So, who profits from this silence? Recent archives confirm that torture is not an exception. It is a structural component of U.S. security operations. But who is responsible for the hidden truth? If the documents are complete, then the operations conducted under cover of secrecy must be more complex than initially revealed. The archives point toward close coordination between various agencies. However, the precise nature of this collaboration remains obscured. A single line in a classified document suggests that the objectives of these operations evolved over time. Without further context, determining the true implication is difficult. Researchers who accessed these files emphasize that the missing information is crucial to understanding the entire file. Document X, declassified in 2020, contains a handwritten note in the margin indicating a secret meeting. The names of the participants were removed. This omission raises more questions than it provides answers. The available archives suggest that these events may connect to other similar operations conducted during the same period. But without concrete proof, it is premature to draw final conclusions. The evolving question now is whether these operations are part of a larger pattern of state secrecy and concealment. A recently declassified document, dating from 1975, reveals that these operations were conducted with the knowledge and approval of high-ranking government officials. The document, titled Project Nightshade, describes a series of covert operations aimed at influencing foreign political events. The details of the project remain heavily censored. A line in the document states that the operations were conducted in violation of international law. The consequences of these actions remain unknown. The document was released following a request for declassification, but many key details remain obscured. The archives indicate that dozens of individuals were involved in these operations. Only a few names were declassified. Project Nightshade raises fundamental questions about governmental transparency and accountability. The researchers who analyzed the document stress that the revelations within Project Nightshade hold major implications for our understanding of recent history. A diplomatic cable associated with the project, dated 1978, suggests that operations continued long after the official end date. This discovery adds a new layer of complexity to the file. It raises new questions about the scope and duration of these secret operations. Project Nightshade is officially closed. But what replaced it is the next episode. The question remains whether the full truth of these operations will ever be revealed. The available archives suggest that key documents remain classified. It is difficult to say what these documents might reveal. The search continues, but every new discovery seems to pose more questions than it answers. The mystery surrounding Project Nightshade and the subsequent operations continues to intrigue and fascinate. What if the real question is not what is hidden, but why these facts are only emerging now? The pursuit of truth is a perilous path. But it is in seeking these truths that we may hope to better understand the world around us.